You're lazy. Perhaps your brain doesn't work very well, and so you would really like it if you could press one button to do your rotation. You'd really like it if you could do it on the class of your choice, and I'm going to show you how you could do it on a whole bunch of different classes by copying this pattern for macros. Now, watch as I move my mouse over one button, and it actually enables me to hit a whole bunch of buttons. But those buttons also all share a hotkey. Now, why would I do this? I'm trying to re-implement the cast random macro functionality that used to exist in this game back in like 2010. I don't know, when I played as a very little kid. And the way we're going to do that is by changing our action bars in combat. Now you see this enables me to make all of these abilities be cast the moment that they're available without making any decisions, because there is nothing between my ears and I want to keep it that way. Now, there's only one other thing required to get a system like this to work. You need to not have your other action bars enabled, since we need to be able to actually rifle through 6 of them. You could do this with less, but then you might have to use your brain a little bit more. Let me prove to you that this actually does something, though. Because Blizzard normally prevents this kind of behavior in the game by having something called the combat lockdown, which makes it so that way when you're in combat, you can't do things like change your hotkeys, because you could use that to implement if statements and put in conditional logic. But we don't have any conditions here. Much like us, there's no thinking going on with this computer. It's simply changing the action buttons over and over again, no matter what. Now, watch this. The proof that this works is that you can see that I am putting Raging Blow on CD, and hopefully I get an overpower off. Ooh, wonderful. I just did. And let's see. See how that's on CD? So there we go. That's the evidence. This works in combat, and it works on all the abilities. Now let's talk about why it would be rational to not have Heroic Strike. First of all, I just can't put it in this macro and have it work, but I'm not giving up on Heroic Strike simply because it'd be hard for me. We actually don't need it, and let me explain that to you. If you look at this sim, you can see that if I sim with the Heroic Strike functionality enabled on the default settings for fight duration, you will actually have a DPS loss by using Heroic Strike. So 313 when we use it. When you don't use it at all, it's going to be 318. Really quickly, let me show you why this would make sense. If you're at 100 rage, you might think that you should Heroic Strike, but that's going to cause a problem, because what would happen if right after you cue Heroic Strike, you get a Wind Fury proc on your quick strike that you do at 100 rage? Well, you're going to expend 29 rage then, which will put you at 71 rage. However, Wind Fury just went off, remember? So you have 3.5 seconds until you get rage again, unless you get another lucky Wind Fury. So what are you going to do? You're at 71 rage. You're probably not going to make any for 3.5 seconds. If you did quick strike twice more and didn't get any lucky Wind Furies, then that would mean that you'd be down another 34 rage. So you'd have less than 50 rage. Well, it sounds like you'd have a very high chance of not proccing Consumed by Rage again. But you'll notice that in the top 5 logs for Aquinas, these guys are using 3 Heroic Strikes each, most of them. One of the guys uses 4. And the one in the middle, the third, uses 0 Heroic Strikes. Now, what happens if we use Heroic Strike on fight lengths such as what these players are on? Would the sim all of a sudden change its opinion? It does. It actually flips its opinion, and this makes some sense to me, because when you have a very short fight length, you can use things like Blood Rage and the Rage Potion to actually unscrew these situations. And we'll see that most of these guys are using their Rage Potions somewhere in the middle of the fight. So that makes sense. They can use that to actually prop up their rage and get back in it. That's how they resolve this problem of dipping down. But on a longer fight, you won't have CDs to deal with all those problems, and so you just have to get a little bit more lucky. If you got chronically unlucky, it would absolutely kill your parses. So if you're having a hard time parsing with a two-hander, I suggest you just drop Heroic Strike and try this one-button rotation for a bit. It's really goofy. I'll show you those macros again. All you need to do is for each of the action bars you rifle through, you just have a little cycle here. So the first one goes to the second. These all go to the next one. The sixth one goes back to the first. And so that's how we implement this little infinite loop of abilities. Thanks. Do some damage.